Hey, I'm Tim from Circuitous Effects, and you're watching Defining Circuit. Defining Circuit is a periodic interview series where I chat with fellow creators in the music world about what inspired and defined their passion for building, the moments, ideas, experiences, and even the circuit that sparked their drive to create for musicians. This time I'm chatting with Hana Wexler from Little Noise Effects. Thank you for being here, Hana.
Pleasure to be here. Great to meet you.
Well, please tell us a little about yourself and how you got into making pedals.
Yeah, of course, like many of us, I think we all kind of fell into music, having a love for music at an early age. And from that, I was really drawn in. My dad kind of started off my
Okay.
appreciation early on as a little kid. I have memories, dancing around the living room to the
Oh, that's
Beatles,
great. Yeah.
Hendrix, the Stones. So there's a very deep appreciation for classic rock.
And was he a
Um,
musician?
He was not. I have a lot of creatives in my family, but he was not quite on that
Okay.
creative route.
Cool.
But just still had a very strong sense of love for music and art, and that runs pretty deep with me as well. So obviously, that kind of led me on the trajectory towards, all things kind of old and vintage and everything from architecture, art, design, fashion, vintage music equipment. I just developed such a deep love for the details
Awesome.
that kind of have gotten lost over the years, and the pride in the workmanship and everything, the attention to detail. It's just there,
Yeah.
that's something that I feel like it's been kind of lost throughout the decades, and
Hmm.
I've just been so drawn to. So I kind of got pulled in through, my love of vintage, and then throughout the years, I've always been singing. So kind of that led me into bands, and
Okay.
later I met my boyfriend, and we both have a love for vintage. So if you've put anything on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or any of those in the last like 10 years or more, actually, you've probably run into us, or there's a good
Yeah.
chance. We were always picking up furniture and different guitars and amps and keyboards. And so we kind of fell into, collecting all of this stuff, which kind of led us into learning how to repair a lot of it
Hmm.
and just kind of fostering an appreciation for, opening up an amp and seeing, the neat work that somebody else, the love that went into,
Right.
making sure all the wires were really, tidy and just
Yeah.
clean lines. And that kind of led into learning about, the people working on them. And a lot of the times in the 50s and 60s, and I think even earlier, a lot of the people working on the amps for Fender and Vox and Gibson were women.
Yeah.
So it's really special, every now and then being able to open one up and you'll see a signature,
Hmm.
and, just having that little bit of history and
Yeah.
being able to repair a lot of this stuff. It's like you're able to get in there and repair some stuff and it's good to go. It was just so well made, and you'll be able to, enjoy it for years to come. So that was kind of what really got me kind of started on all of that.
Okay.
And then kind of going into pedal making, that's definitely on newer side for me. I don't have really a background in, the electronics, but I've
Right.
always been so fascinated by it. And kind of on a little side note with that, what really kind of led me to it was, unfortunately, in 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so going into 2020, I was going into, my chemo treatments and my
Yeah, right at
surgery
the
and
worst
everything.
time, huh?
Oh my God, yeah, it was crazy. The silver lining to that was, not having the FOMO of missing out on concerts or
Right.
doing stuff with friends, but, having that time to really focus on my healing. And as a distraction, my boyfriend was like, "Hey, I know how much you love getting your hands on this kind of stuff. I think you'd be really good at doing
Hmm.
point-to-point work."
Wow.
And so he kind of helped me get started, and we started looking up different circuits and this and that. And um, yeah, I just kind of, it was a really good distraction for me. And I just kind of fell in love with just being able to, here's the puzzle pieces, these are the constraints, and,
Right.
how to get it into a tiny enclosure and make it not only sound good, but look good.
Yeah.
Really been, what I kind of strive for is like not only sounding good, but having something that's going to look really good and hopefully inspire people to want to pick it up and, play with it and create something amazing from that.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to get to the aesthetics of your pedals in a second, but let's go back. Your boyfriend pretty much immediately said that you'd be good at point to point. Is that the first way that you started making this stuff?
I actually, a few years before all of that, I had kind of tinkered around with a couple one knob fuzz on a Vero board,
Okay.
just messing around with that. Made a couple for friends and then kind of set that down, kind of forgot about it for a while. And it really wasn't until 2020 where we're
Hmm.
just hanging around repairing stuff when he's like, hey, your soldering's really good. Let's see what you can do with that. So that
Yeah,
was really
yeah.
the catalyst.
So what was your early success or failure like? Was this something that the first time you tried this, it worked, or was there a little bit of learning in the process?
It was definitely a little bit of a learning curve. We had put stuff on breadboard just to kind of play around with it, but it really wasn't until I got everything into the first enclosure and we plugged it in that we were really like, okay, maybe we can tweak a little bit of that. And it was just kind of like on the spot of, going through, our different capacitors or resistors and kind of just playing around with, what
Mhm.
sounds good and just kind
Yeah,
of really leaning into our ear to dictate, what we were going to do with it.
yeah, that's crazy. So onto the aesthetics then. I mean, anyone who knows me knows I love enclosures that come from reclaimed parts or pieces or something that's alternative to the normal aluminum style boxes. Why don't you describe you've got sort of a clear plexiglass enclosure, right? And I'm sure I'm wrong with the material, but yeah, yeah, with the
Yeah.
point-to-point circuit inside. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little about how you arrived at that idea?
Yeah, of course, as everyone does, I'm sure you're, going through the different sites, kind of seeing what's available. And I found this lucite enclosure, and I was really drawn to that idea of, like really being able to show off the work and the clean lines and really
Mm,
just, putting it all out there, every little bit you see, and just trying to figure out what type of artwork I wanted to, put on that without taking away from the workmanship. Actually, one of my uncles is a graphic designer and he has his own studio.
mm,
He was hosting another artist. Her name's Arnell DeRoy Gruber, and she was really prominent in the 60s and 70s, and she was really well known for her plexiglass vacuum formed sculptures.
mm.
And all different colors, very bright and colorful. And I was just so fascinated by it. And then it just kind of clicked. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have these clear enclosures and I'm trying to figure out the artwork and something that doesn't detract from it. And here you have something that's completely see-through. And one of the most amazing parts of her collection is she has certain sculptures that are motorized. And so as they rotate, you get different views of,
Wow,
the
yeah.
art, and it kind of just you can kind of just really see all the different angles and all the different perspectives, and that just really influenced what I wanted to do with these pedals and kind of try to recreate that to some degree.
That's
uh,
really cool.
yeah, so that was my big inspiration for the art.
Okay. And is RNL still alive or?
Oh, unfortunately she passed away, I believe, in 2011. I could be wrong on that,
Okay.
but
Well, that's a cool way to keep her sort of vision alive in a way.
yeah, definitely. I would, love for everybody to know who she is because she's just such a pioneer, working with a very different medium.
Mm,
And it's very special.
that's great. So as you started working with your circuit and putting it into this plastic enclosure, did you encounter any issues like noise or things that typically are shielded by aluminum enclosures?
You know what? That was a big concern early on, but so far we haven't really had any issues with that.
Okay.
Yeah, everything seems to be pretty well contained, even though it's plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a fuzz face, right?
Yeah, based off the classic fuzz-based style circuit with silicon transistors.
Okay. And was that the first circuit that you had a aha moment? I want to make this into something that other people play, or were there other circuits that came before that that maybe inspired you to continue on and learn about the fuzz face?
That was really kind of the first one that I was really like, you know what, let's go with that. Just obviously being inspired by Jimi Hendrix and knowing that that was one of his favorite, that was kind of like, all right, I really like that. Let's kind of roll with that and see what I
Yeah,
can make. So,
that's
yeah.
great. So over time, you had this idea of putting your circuit into a lucite case, and you've made several of them at this point. Is there anything that you've learned over time that has made your process easier? Something that you've said to yourself, you know what, if I did it this way, it'd be so much better than the old way.
Yeah, when I first started off, I was building it inside the enclosure, and that had so many different challenges.
Yeah.
Obviously being very mindful not to get the soldering iron too close to the edges.
Yep.
A lot of bee stalks that I got just melted. But through that process, I realized, okay, no, I can build this outside of it and then wait until the last minute to put everything in, just solder what needs to be soldered. So yeah, just learning to be it's almost like playing Operation, just, trying to get in there without touching anything. Yeah, it was challenging, but it's fun. I love it.
That's great. And so do you feel like you're going to continue on with the point-to-point work, or are you going to try other forms of doing this like PCBs or anything like that in the future?
Right now, I think pretty much I love doing the point to point. I
Mm,
love that it's a throwback to, the old, ways of doing things and just kind of the architectural lines that it's almost, it's very architectural in a way where,
yeah.
you're building this foundation and it's all enclosed and everything has a purpose and direction. And there's just something that's always drawn me to that and just very hands-on and you just being able to see the work. And eventually, if a part goes out, hopefully somebody will be able to easily replace it
Yeah.
and, be able to continue playing it for years to come. But yeah, pretty much point to point.
Okay.
But yeah, might branch out later. I know I have some ideas where the enclosures might be a little too small for what I'd like to be
Right.
able to accomplish. So I might branch out a little bit.
All right. And is there anything else maybe in the future for Little Noise Effects as far as new effects that are coming out or new ideas that you might have that you can share?
Uh, Let's see. I guess the newest thing that I'm trying to kind of figure out is we have an old 1960s Vox Apollo,
Mm,
and it has a built-in Vox distortion booster. And so I'm kind of in the works of trying to replicate that in a way
mm,
because it just sounds so cool.
that's awesome.
And then eventually kind of being able to like ABM side by side. So that's it's kind of what's hopefully coming next. Very slowly. We're kind of nicking away at it here and there, but that's the next goal.
Sounds exciting. Well, thank you so much, Hana. This has been a fabulous talk.
Yeah, it's been great chatting with you.
And thanks everyone for watching. If you enjoyed the conversation, stick around. More interviews are on the way where I'll keep exploring all the things that define why we do what we do. Thank you very much.